My name is Martha Meyer. I'm a children's librarian at the Evanston Public Library, and also I attend St. Luke's Episcopal Church, where I am on the Green Team.
My name is Sharon Smaller, and I'm a member of Beth Emmett, and I currently chair our climate action group, and it's called Dainu. So I'm talking today to Martha Meyer, and we're talking about specifically eating a plant-based diet. What was the trigger that made you do this?
Okay, it was not climate change at all. It was not on my radar when I decided to do this. I was in my late 40s and I fell in love.
What
I
is the connection?
started a new life with my husband, Rick, and we wish that we had more life to spend with each other. So then, just after getting married, he left to take care of his dying father in the hospital in Florida. And in those long evenings, I read a book that someone at the Old South Branch Library had given me and said, "This changed my life." And it was called The China Study by T. Colin Campbell out of Cornell University. And it's about the surprising health benefits of going meat free and all his experiments over time that led him to that. It's very, very science dense, but it kind of did it for me. So it was health that I did it for. So have a long life with my husband. I later also watched the Forks Over Knives video, which is much easier to take in than a long science book, and it covers a lot of the same territory. The other book that really floored me was written by a New York Times bestseller. He's a doctor. His name is Michael Greger, and it's called How Not to Die. And so between those two, they converted me.
Okay. Can you share with us some specific processes did you follow?
It was real easy for me to give up chicken meat because I hated chicken breast. It just seemed so boring, and I felt like I ate it all the time, and I was like, ick. So I'm glad I don't have to eat chicken breast anymore. But then, over time, slowly, I gave up different meats. And then I hit up against the roadblock, which for me was bacon. I could not give up bacon. But bacon was the thing for me. Other people, it would be something else. Offended vegan people when I told them I was a bacon vegan, but eventually bacon started to taste way too fatty, and I didn't want to eat it anymore, so I dropped it. But I took a long time where I was vegan except for bacon. So you can be vegan except for something else that you really have trouble giving up. The thing that really helped me give up bacon, though, is that it is now listed as a carcinogen by the International Agency for Research on Cancer. So it's like, okay, I'll give up bacon. So,
Okay. What other challenges did you come up against beyond bacon?
well, for everyone, I think the challenge to going plant-based is, what do I make? What tastes good? I want good food. So recipes I think, if you're going to do it, you kind of have to relearn what you're kind of doing automatically now when you're cooking dinner. So the best thing to do is just find one single recipe that you like. And then, you're started. It's a start. So I have a lot of recipe books to recommend. I'm a librarian. I love books. Isa Does It by Isa Chandra Moskovitz. She also wrote this wonderful book called Veganomicon, but it's a little bit more like gourmet. And Isa Does It is like, your regular, ordinary, everyday foods. And she's fabulous. And then there's a blogger named Angela Leiden, and she writes the Oh She Glows blog. Her cookbook is really fabulous, and there's some things in there that I just crave, and it's so good. And then there's a book called East by Mira Soda. She's of Indian extraction. She has Indian cookbooks, but this one is broader than that. It includes lots of Asian food too. Sweet Potato Soul by Janae Claiborne. My husband is a Southerner, so we want to be able to eat some really good Southern food. And then any cookbook by Ottolenghi. He is a fabulous British chef of, I think, Israeli extraction, and his books are incredible vegetarian gourmet. Mostly not vegan because he uses a lot of yogurt. Anyway, if you're a gourmet cook and you don't want to give up gourmet cooking, there's this guy named Ottolenghi, and he's fantastic. So then there's a lot of books if you want to go the more strict whole food plant-based diet. You can watch Forks Over Knives video and go to the Forks Over Knives magazine and website. And then Dr. Greger, the one who wrote How Not to Die, he wrote a cookbook called How Not to Die Cookbook. And he also wrote a cookbook called How Not to Diet Cookbook. And then there's this cool new book out called Be a Plant-Based Woman Warrior. And it's written by Anne and Jane Esselstyn. They are the wife and daughter, respectively, of Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, who is from the Cleveland Clinic, and he's the expert on reversing heart disease with a plant-based diet, a whole food plant-based diet. And then his son's name is Rip Esselstyn, and he has really great diet recommendations in his books. I think it's called the Engine 2 diet. It's designed for male firefighters to cook. So it's easy cooking and, real manly. Another obstacle that some people run up against besides recipes is their family, because you might want to go vegan, but you have a whole family to feed. So I was really lucky. My husband, who's the chef of the family, was willing to become a house vegan. And so he cooks vegan at home for us. But then when we go out, he's a meat eater.
Mm-hmm.
So my kids were preteens at the time. So they were already, they were used to a certain diet that I had served in the past. And I was divorced, so they traveled between my ex-husband and me. The rule was that if we went out, they could eat whatever they wanted. They could order whatever they wanted. But in my house, we ate vegan. And if they didn't like dinner, there wasn't anything else for dinner, but they could have as many healthy snacks as they wanted. So I made sure my house was full of healthy snacks. And if they didn't want to eat the dinner, they could just eat an apple and a lot of other things that they would, like. There's two things that are not challenges that most people think are going to be challenges. One is, how do you get your protein? That's what everyone always asks me. How do you get your protein? On average, Americans eat double the amount of protein they need. So any vegetable has some protein, but if you want that full feeling, a good hit of protein, beans and tofu and tempeh and grains that are complete proteins like quinoa. Also, to feel full, you load up on starches like corn and winter squash and white and sweet potatoes and, those things that are a little heavier. To make everyone feel better, maybe, the disease you get if you don't get enough protein is called kwashiorkor. Most people don't know anyone that has kwashiorkor because there's almost no one in the United States that has it. It is a very rare disease. It's present in areas where there's complete famine. So like if you go into an area where people are experiencing famine, some of the people may be suffering from kwashiorkor and they have ways to solve it. But there's almost no way that you could live in the United States and develop this illness. So it is not the big issue that everyone thinks it is. Put that worry aside. Okay. You don't need to worry about that. You will get the protein you need. Another big challenge that people think, especially if they happen to sometimes wander into Whole Foods, is that, oh my God, this is going to cost so much money. And cost doesn't have to be a challenge. The cheapest foods on the planet are dried beans and brown rice. You can, make 5 meals for, $1.68 or something. And if you want to really splurge and get a can of beans instead of getting them dry, so they're all ready to go, just ready to roast. I mean, that's about 75 cents at Walgreens, maybe you'll pay $1 at Whole Foods. And one of the very best vegetables to eat is red cabbage, which stores beautifully, so you can always get it. And you can make 2 or 3 huge bowls of cabbage slaw for like a whole bunch of meals. And that costs about $4. So if you're looking to eat things out of season, and almost all of us in Chicago have to do that in the winter, then fresh vegetables are expensive. But frozen fruit and vegetables are just as nutritious and healthy, and they are often cheaper. So don't get me wrong, you can spend oodles of money on fancy vegan food, but you don't need to. It can be a cheaper meal than eating meat.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's reassuring, especially in these kind of high inflationary times at the grocery store.